Speech off.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So, I am here to do a video about all the books that I love that have had like really great moms in them, or just like the theme of motherhood is like really strong. It is Friday, May 10th, and today is Mexican Mother's Day, which is when a lot of my family members celebrate Mother's Day. So I thought that I would do this video today, and then maybe we'll see if I actually do it on Sunday. But on Sunday, May 12th, which is American Mother's Day, I thought that I would do the books about mothers that I want to read that are still on my TBR, which, by the way, there are a lot. I tried to narrow them down because some of them, I don't know. Anyway, so let's just get into this video. These are in no particular order. I kind of just thought of titles, wrote them down, and then I went through my Goodreads, and it's kind of how the cookie crumbles. So yeah, there's no like, I was going to organize them into categories, but nah. I've done this video about 4 times, and this will be my last take. So yeah, let's just get started. So the first two I want to mention are just, I think, books that every video with books about motherhood should mention. We have Marmee from Little Women. You know, Marmee is wise. She says what she thinks. She admits her faults when she screws up. Like, she's a really good mom with all of the March sisters. You know, if you've read Little Women, you know what I'm talking about. You know, she's like one of the favorite book mothers of all time. So, yeah, you kind of can't go without mentioning her. And then we have Ma Ingalls in the Little House series. Honestly, I think she's a little underrated because Pa is like so full of life, and you know, he's playing his fiddle and he's singing and he's doing all the things, and he's, you know, so yeah. But Ma is like the one who keeps the whole house running, like who makes sure that everybody's okay, that everybody's, you know, well fed and all that. And like, she took care of a lot of things that she just doesn't get a lot of credit for, because everybody notices Pa and his charisma and his singing and all of that. So yeah, those are the two moms kind of right off the bat that I want to mention. Now on to just the typical books. So the first kind of books that I kind of want to go into, like really go into. So the first one is The Face on the Milk Carton by Caroline B. Cooney. This is a like YA series that I read, sorry, in like middle and high school. And I read the first 4 books in the series. There's been 2 more since then that I've never read. One just came out, I think, like right before the pandemic, maybe 2019. But yeah, this series is like my first foray into thrillers. Like, it was like my first kidnapping story. It was huge for me. So I really want to reread these so I can get to the 2 newer ones. So yeah. This is about Janie Johnson. She is your typical high school girl. She's sitting in the cafeteria, chatting with her friends. She opens a milk carton, and she sees herself on that milk carton. That's why it's called The Face on the Milk Carton. That's kind of what they used to do when people were kidnapped before we had Facebook and we could spread it all over the world. We put people's pictures on milk cartons. So basically the rest of that story is Janie trying to figure out how to navigate this. Like, did I get kidnapped? My parents aren't monsters, so what happened? And once I figure out what happened, do I contact these other people and blow up my entire life, because they're not just going to let me stay with my kidnappers forever once they find out I'm alive? And do I want that? And it's like, a lot of people have a lot of trouble with the back and forth of it all, because Janie's like, should I tell them? Should I not? It's kind of like, will I, won't I, for the whole book. And some people just don't have the patience for it. And funnily enough, her boyfriend also doesn't have the patience for it, which is what's really like wild. He's a nice guy, but at the same time, like, you see sort of his perspective a little bit, and he's like, all she wants to do is talk and talk, and I've been wanting to date her for years, and all I want to do is kiss her, and it's, anyway. My point is, the reason that I picked this series is because you see the tug of war between the two moms. Like the mom she grew up with and then the mom who lost out on her for 12 years. And you see the sacrifices that she has to make to let Janie continue to have a relationship with her adoptive mom, so to speak. So there's that whole tug of war, and Janie also has to like deal with new siblings and all of that, and living in like a lower income household, because I'm pretty sure from what I remember that her kidnappers or her family that she lived with, they're not bad people. I won't tell you how they're not bad people, but they're not. But they lived in pretty upper middle class. So like Janie went from having her own huge bedroom to having to share with her sister, and there's one bathroom in the house for like 6 people, which is horrifying to Janie. So just based on the lifestyle alone, she wasn't going to adjust. So it was kind of, I really feel like these books belong on this list because you really see like the sacrifice that these mothers had to make as mothers to make Janie happy, like to make sure that she was happy, and it was at a huge cost to them, like, you know, having to share her. So yeah, those are those books. Then we have 2 Kristen Hanna books. One is a historical fiction and one is contemporary. The first one is my favorite. This is a historical fiction, Winter Garden. I actually like this one more than The Nightingale. It's just so much more interesting the way the story was told. I'll just read the description because, you know, they can explain it better. It's hard to explain. Okay, so Meredith and Nina Whitson are as different as sisters can be. One stayed at home to raise her children and manage the family apple orchard. The other followed a dream and traveled the world to become a famous photojournalist. But when their beloved father falls ill, Meredith and Nina find themselves together again, standing alongside their cold, disapproving mother, Anya, who even now offers no comfort to her daughters. As children, the only connection between them was the Russian fairy tale Anya sometimes told the girls at night. On his deathbed, their father extracts a promise from the women in his life. The fairy tale will be told one last time and all the way to the end. Thus begins an unexpected journey into the truth of Anya's life in war-torn Leningrad, more than 5 decades ago. Alternating between the past and present, Meredith and Nina will finally hear the singular, harrowing story of their mother's life, and what they learn is a secret so terrible and terrifying that it will shake the very foundation of their family and change who they believe they are. So yeah, like, I just could not do that justice. Becca Books and Bujo, I think she also ranked that one higher than Nightingale, but I could be wrong. She did like this whole video ranking Kristen Hanna books. So yeah, I know other people have read it who are like Kristen Hanna fans. I think Lindsay from Lindsay's Little Library might have. I don't know. I know that Angie from Book Mama said that she had not read that one yet, but she had read The Nightingale. I'm curious to know if which one she likes more, just because she really loved The Nightingale. And don't get me wrong, I love The Nightingale, but not as much as this one. And The Nightingale didn't really make it onto this list because I think this was more about, The Nightingale was more about the relationship between the sisters. And we get a lot of that too in The Winter Garden, but the majority of it is them trying to understand their mother, like, because she was very cold toward them growing up and they don't understand why. And finally, when she tells the story, they really get it, and they, you know, their relationship slowly changes. It's really interesting kind of the way they chip at her, like, shell that she has to protect herself, because she's been through some stuff. It ain't pretty. You will cry. Like, I don't know. I just think that this book is way more tragic than The Nightingale. The Nightingale has like a tragic love story in it. So does this one, but woof. Anyway, you guys should read this one. The other Kristen Hanna book I have is a contemporary, and it's called Magic Hour. This one is about Julia Cates. She is one of the country's like best child psychiatrists until something happens that ruins her career. So she retreats to her hometown in Washington, and she meets a little girl, 6 years old, named, well, she names her Alice because she doesn't have a name. They find her like in the forest or in the woods or whatever, and she's been living there, and so she doesn't know how to like live as a human. She's a wild child. And so we see Julia and Alice's relationship really blossom, hence the theme of motherhood. Like, she becomes her mother figure, and it's really sweet. And then there is a sister dynamic too, where her and her sister didn't get along very well. What's the sister's name? I can't remember. It's not in the description. Whatever. But yeah, this one is definitely all motherhood, in my opinion. So, yeah. Next, we have kind of a difficult historical fiction. If you think the Winter Garden and The Nightingale are difficult, yikes. It's called Those Who Save Us by Janet Bloom. So I'll read the description for this one. For 50 years, Anna Schlemmer has refused to talk about her life in Germany during World War II. Her daughter Trudy was only 3 when she and her mother were liberated by an American soldier and went to live with him in Minnesota. Trudy's sole evidence of the past is an old photograph, a family portrait showing Anna, Trudy, and a Nazi officer, the Obersturmführer of Buchenwald. Driven by the guilt of her heritage, Trudy, now professor of German history, begins investigating the past and finally unearths the dramatic and heartbreaking truth of her mother's life. Combining a passionate, doomed love story, a vivid evocation of life during the war, and a poignant mother-daughter drama is a profound exploration of what we endure to survive and the legacy of shame. So, yeah, like, I think this is, like, motherhood in its truest form, because this is another kind of very cold mother because of what she's been through, and she's been through a lot. But once you really get to her story, you realize she did everything to protect her kid, like, who was Jewish. I mean, she had a relationship with a Nazi. Like, this is actually the first book I read where, like, there's a complication of a Nazi being, like, not straight up bad, I guess. Well, not that this guy wasn't bad, but, like, she was in a relationship with him, and she had to be to protect her kid. So, like, she makes all these decisions that you think are really, really bad. Like, why are you doing this? But she's doing it all for her kid. And yeah, it is a difficult read. And you never really get this mushy, like, reunion that you think you're going to get. So, you know, don't expect, like, this tied with a bow kind of ending. But yeah, there's definitely motherhood in this because she did everything, even stuff she is probably ashamed of. So, yeah. Anyway, there's that one. Now let's go to something a little lighter. This is called My Husband's Daughter by Emma Robinson. I discovered her a couple of years ago, and I've been reading everything that the U.S. Audible has to offer. There's another one that I want to read that Audible in U.S. does not have, which I'll talk about in another video. But this one is about Rebecca and Jack. They're married, and they don't want children. And then, surprise, Jack's ex-girlfriend Kara shows up with a 4-year-old she claims is his kid, and it's kind of like their path, I guess, to bring this little girl into their lives when they never wanted kids in the first place, especially Rebecca. I think, honestly, Jack probably would have been okay either way, but Rebecca was, like, adamantly against kids, but even then you see, like, her kind of warm toward this little girl, and then some circumstances happen that really bring them together, and so, yeah, this is, like, motherhood, from Kara, which is this little girl's mother, but also from Rebecca, who sort of becomes her second mom. So, yeah, like, that adjustment period is kind of the theme of motherhood that shines through in this book. So, the next one I have is The Nature of Fragile Things by Susan Meisner. I know Mitzi from Mitzi Reads and Writes has read this one. Maybe Krista from Books and Jams, I'm not sure. But yeah, Susan Meisner is pretty popular. I'll just read the description for this one. April 18th, 1906, a massive earthquake rocks San Francisco just before daybreak, igniting a devouring inferno. Lives are lost, lives are shattered, but some rise from the ashes, forever changed. Sophie Whalen is a young Irish immigrant so desperate to get out of a New York tenement that she answers a mail-order bride ad and agrees to marry a man she knows nothing about. San Francisco widower Martin Hawking proves to be as aloof as he is mesmerizingly handsome. Sophie quickly develops deep affection for Kat, Martin's silent 5-year-old daughter, but Martin's odd behavior leaves her with the uneasy feeling that something about her newfound situation isn't right. Then one early spring evening, a stranger at the door sets in motion a transforming chain of events. Sophie discovers hidden ties to 2 other women. The first, pretty and pregnant, is standing on her doorstep. The second is hundreds of miles away in the American Southwest, grieving the loss of everything she once loved. The fates of these 3 women intertwine on the eve of the devastating earthquake, thrusting them onto a perilous journey that will test their resiliency and resolve, and ultimately their belief that love can overcome fear. So yeah, this one definitely has, like, motherhood. Like, we have Sophie and Kat, and then we also, they're developing their relationship, but there's also these other 2 women who I can't really tell you how they tie in, because that would be telling, but trust me when I say they're all mothers, and they all have to come together, and it is really neat to see. Ooh, my battery's gonna die soon, hold on.
Speech on. Close. Button. 10%. Close. Button. Stop recording video. Button.
Stop recording.
Speech off.
I have to hurry. I'm 10%. This battery's gonna die. Next we have a time travel book. I talked about this one in my video for books that have a blind character in them. I did that one like over a year ago. Or was it over a year ago? Anyway. But this one has a really cool blind guy in it. He's not the main character, which I think is a good thing because he's like a really fun sidekick. And when you have a blind person as the main character, like, they're just kind of, you have to explain everything about their lives, and they're just not really considered normal because they're like the main event and they're the most interesting thing in the room. And he is not the most interesting thing in the room, which makes him the most interesting thing in the room for me, because he's just kind of there like a normal person and nobody thinks anything of his blindness. Like, he's blind. Cool. He's very funny and he helps Faye a lot. So this book isn't really about him, but anyway, it's called Faye Far Away by Helen Fisher. Faye is a 37-year-old happily married mother of 2 young daughters. Every night before she puts them to bed, she whispers to them, "You are good, you are kind, you are clever, you are funny." She's determined that they never doubt for a minute that their mother loves them unconditionally. After all, her own mother, Jeannie, had died when she was only 7 years old, and Faye has never gotten over that intense pain of losing her. But one day, her life is turned upside down when she finds herself in 1977, the year before her mother died. Suddenly, she has a chance to reconnect with her long-lost mother and even meets her own younger self, a little girl she can barely remember. Jeannie doesn't recognize Faye as her daughter, of course, even though there is something eerily familiar about her. As the two women become close friends, they share many secrets, but Faye is terrified of revealing the truth about her identity. Will it prevent her from returning to her own time and her beloved husband and daughters? What if she's doomed to remain in the past forever? Faye knows that eventually she will have to choose between those she loves in the past and those she loves in the here and now, and that knowledge presents her with an impossible choice. So yeah, this one is time travel, but it's not like a romance or anything. This is about mother-daughter. So she goes back to the year before her mother dies and gets to know her as an adult, on an adult level. I mean, they smoke pot together at one point, but like, her mom doesn't know that this is her daughter, so she can be an adult around her. So anyway, next we have Any Other Family by Eleanor Brown. This one, I think, was one of my favorites of 2022. I've talked about it before, but it's an adoption story that I love. So, they look just like any other family, but they aren't a family like any other. Not quite. Instead, there are 3 sets of parents who adopted 4 biological siblings, committing to keeping the children connected after the death of their grandmother. Tabitha, who adopted the twins, is the planner of the group, responsible for coordinating playdates and birthdays and Sunday night dinners, insistent that everything happens just so. Quiet and steady Ginger, single mother to the eldest daughter, resists the forced togetherness, her own unsettled childhood, leaving her wary of trusting too much. And Elizabeth is still reeling from going directly from failed fertility treatments into adopting a newborn, terrified that her unhappiness means she was not meant to be a mother at all. But when the 3 women receive a surprising call from their children's birth mother... Oh, never mind. I'm going to stop there because I'm not going to say what the announcement is. But it brings them together. But it also kind of tears them apart because it's not an easy thing she's asking them to do. And they're in this vacation home for the summer, or for a couple of weeks in the summer, which doesn't help. Too much forced togetherness creates drama. But this book, like I said, is totally about motherhood because it's about these 3, families who adopted these kids who are biologically related, so they have to hang out together because they're siblings and they don't want to separate them. And kind of how they deal with that. But then you also have the whole extended family of it. Like, for example, John and Elizabeth have the baby, and John gets this job offer to live near their families, John and Elizabeth's families. But they're like, we can't take her away from our siblings, and their parents are like, why not? They're not, you don't owe them anything. You don't have to keep this relationship going. This is our grandkid. Why, So it was a really interesting read. I enjoyed it a lot. And I think it needs more hype. So, next we have The Midwife of Auschwitz by Anna Stewart. This one, is about 2 midwives. Anna and Esther. Yeah, Anna and Esther. One of them, I forget, I think Esther is Jewish. Yeah, Esther's a Jewish one. And Anna ends up in the concentration camp with her because she was helping deliver babies and give medical supplies to the ghetto. So they are both in the concentration camps together, and Anna manages to get Esther a job as her assistant midwife. And yeah, when babies are born in Auschwitz, they usually kill them because they're going to die anyway. And like, they don't want the moms to have these babies to take care of. So what Esther and Anna soon learn is that if a baby looks Aryan, they won't be killed. They'll be sent to Aryan families. So what they do is they tattoo their own prison numbers onto the baby, like in a spot where they can't see, like under the arm where the Nazis won't look, so that they can match the number, the tattoo number, to their tattoo number after the war. And they'll have a chance to find their kids. So yeah, this is totally motherhood because they're trying to keep their babies safe and be able to relocate them. And Anna is older, so she sort of becomes a mother figure to Esther and all that. There's a sequel too that I'm not going to talk about, but I love this book a lot, and it's another underhyped one. Next we have The Mother's Promise by Sally Hepworth. This is one of her contemporaries. It's not really very thrillery. So, Alice and her daughter Zoe have been a family of two all their lives. Zoe has always struggled with crippling social anxiety, and her mother has been her constant and fierce protector. With no family to speak of and the identity of Zoe's father shrouded in mystery, their team of two works until it doesn't. Until Alice gets sick and is given a grim prognosis. Desperate to find stability for Zoe, Alice reaches out to two women who are practically strangers, but who are her only hope. Kate, her oncologist nurse, and Sonia, a social worker. As the four of them come together, a chain of events is set into motion, and all four of them must confront their sharpest fears and secrets about abandonment, abuse, estrangement, and the deepest longing for family. So yeah, like, she is very, very worried about her kid because her kid really depends on her, and she's like dying essentially. So she's trying to create a village for her kid, and it's like really sad. I mean, she's dying. But so yeah, you're gonna cry, but it's also really satisfying too, the way this like village comes together for them. So next is my favorite of Sally Hepworth's books, The Secrets of Midwives. This is the first Sally Hepworth I ever read. I remember that I saw it on Lindsay's channel first, and I was hooked. I don't know if she ever read it, but she hauled it. I remember very specifically years ago. I read it as soon as I saw it on her channel. A novel about 3 generations of midwives. A woman, her mother, and her grandmother, and the secrets they keep that push them apart and ultimately bind them together. So basically, Neva Bradley, she's the daughter, it's the 3rd generation midwife, and she's pregnant, and she's not telling anyone who the father is or anything like that. Her mother, Grace, finds it crazy to keep it secret. Grace is Neva's mother, and she's very, like, sort of a free spirit. Think Lorelai Gilmore, just a naturalist who isn't necessarily obsessed with French fries, but she's very out there. And then her daughter is Floss. And she is kind of thrust back into the past because of Neva's situation. So I learned about her history and how Grace came to be and stuff. And it's really interesting because, like, these women really come together. I don't know. I love books about midwives. I like babies being born, for one thing, but it's also, like, motherhood and, like, all these women coming together and stuff. So, yeah. Next, we have an Amish book, or an Amish series, the Ada's House series. The first one is called The Hope of Refuge by Cindy Woodsmall. Raised in foster care and now the widowed mother of a little girl, Kara Moore struggles against poverty, fear, and a relentless stalker. When a trail of memories leads Kara and Lori out of New York City toward an Amish community, she follows every lead, eager for answers and a fresh start. She discovers that long-held secrets about her family history ripple beneath the surface of Dry Lake, Pennsylvania, and it's no place for an outsider. But one Amish man, Ephraim Mast, dares to fulfill the command he believes that he received from God. Be me to her, despite how it threatens his way of life. Completely opposite of the hard, untrusting Kara, Ephraim's sister, Deborah, also finds her dreams crumbling when the man she has pledged to build a life with begins withdrawing from Deborah and his community, including his mother, Ada Stoltzfus. Can the rundown house that Ada envisions transforming unite them toward a common purpose, or push Malin away forever? While Ephraim is trying to do what he believes is right, will he be shunned and lose everything, including the guarded single mother who simply longs for a better life? So all of these people really come together. But yeah, motherhood is woven throughout these books. Amish are very family oriented anyway, but when you read this one, you really see Kara trying to protect her daughter and kind of the way that they all navigate that situation, and all the family secrets that Kara finds out, her past with the Amish. So yeah. Next we have every Christian fiction's booktuber's favorite, When the Day Comes by Gabrielle Meyer. It's the first one in the Timeless series. And I picked this one because there is so much motherhood woven into this one. Because the mother and daughter are super close. I'll just read the description. Oh, I didn't write it down. Huh. I guess because I read it a million times, I didn't bother. But basically, Libby is a time crosser, and she wakes up one day and is in the Gilded Age, I think 1914 or something, during World War I. And then in the other timeline, she's in the colonial times. So one of her mothers is a time crosser, and they're super close and just all of that. You see a lot of mother-daughter moments. The second one is more about the romance that the girl picks, but this first one I think is really mother-daughter related. There is some romance in it, obviously, but it's not the main point of the story, I don't think. It's not who's she gonna pick? No love triangles or anything like that. In fact, she's trying to get away from the husband that she has in the 1900s. So yeah. But yeah, her mother is a time crosser, and they kind of bond over that, what it's like waking up in one time one day and then another time the next. So yeah, I really love this book. Like I said, everybody that I know in the Christian fiction booktube community has read it. Katie from Paperbacks and Ponytails, book lover Amanda. Yeah. And I think more people should read this series. I get it has some Christian undertones in it, and I think it's getting more Christian by the book, personally. This first one didn't have too much God stuff, but the second one did, and I'm just starting the third one, and there's definitely some. But the stories are so compelling that, honestly, you're going to get hooked even if you're a full-blown atheist. So, I love this series. Next we have The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. This is also a TV show. Before Owen Michaels disappears, he manages to smuggle a note to his beloved wife of 1 year. Despite her confusion and fear, Hannah Hall knows exactly to whom the note refers. Owen's 16-year-old daughter, Bailey. Bailey, who lost her mother tragically as a child. Bailey, who wants absolutely nothing to do with her new stepmother. Protect her. As Hannah's increasingly desperate calls to Owen go unanswered, as the FBI arrests Owen's boss, as the U.S. Marshal and FBI agents arrive at her Sausalito home unannounced, Hannah quickly realizes her husband isn't who he said he was, and that Bailey just may hold the key to figuring out Owen's true identity and why he really disappeared. So, yeah, like, I consider this motherhood because this is like a stepmother and stepdaughter really coming together, and Bailey wasn't a fan of her at first. She wasn't even, but the interesting was she wasn't like super bratty about it like other stepkids are. Like, she just didn't want anything to do with her. Like, she's just like, okay, you're marrying my dad. Cool. I'm almost 18. I don't have to be around you. Which I honestly thought she was okay. I never really thought she was super bratty about it. But like I said, they grow closer. So, for me, that counts as motherhood. And then we have No One Ever Asked by Katie Ganchard. I think book lover Amanda read another book by Katie Ganchard. This is the only book by her that I found on audio, though. And I found it way before I started BookTube. But I love this book. When an impoverished school district loses its accreditation and the affluent community of Crystal Ridge has no choice but to open their school doors, the lives of three very different women converge. Camille Gray, the wife of an executive, mother of three, long-standing PTA chairwoman and champion fundraiser, faced with the shocking discovery that threatens to tear her picture-perfect world apart at the seams. Jen Covington, the career nurse whose long, painful journey to motherhood finally resulted in adoption. But she is struggling with a happily ever after so much harder than she anticipated. 22-year-old Anaya Jones, the first woman in her family to graduate college and a brand new teacher at Crystal Ridge Top Elementary School, unprepared for the powder keg situation she stepped into. Tensions rise within and without, culminating in an unforeseen event that impacts them all. So yeah, all these mothers kind of come together. Well, Anaya's not really a mother, but like the other two are. And you kind of see them grappling with the situation. They're not like best friends by the end, but they do come together for a common goal. But they all learn something, especially the PTA mom. I already forgot her name because I'm not looking. But Camille, yeah. I think the interesting part of it was Jen for me, the adopted mother, because you really see her struggles. Like, this is not some cheesy Annie adoption. This is hard. And I think it's cool that they acknowledge the hard part of it. So, that's why I added it to this list. There's some like racism stuff in it too, because like that's really what everybody's problem is in this book, that they're letting the African American kids come to the school, which is stupid, but hey, that's how it was, I guess, kind of. Not even, this was modern times, which only made it worse. But yeah, that's kind of the basis of the story. I'm checking to see if my phone's about to die. I think I'm almost done. Yeah, last one. Embers in the London Sky by Sarah Sundin. As the German army invades the Netherlands in 1940, Alida van der Zee Martens escapes to London to wait out the occupation. Separated from her 3-year-old son Theo in the process, the young widow desperately searches for her little boy, even as she works for an agency responsible for evacuating children to the countryside. When German bombs set London ablaze, BBC radio correspondent Hugh Collingwood reports on the Blitz, eager to boost morale while walking the fine line between truth and censorship. But the Germans are not the only ones Londoners have to fear, as a series of murders flame up amid the ashes. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of this is about her searching for her little boy. He has, I think, a missing finger on his hand, and so her husband, like, doesn't like that about him because he's not quote-unquote perfect, so when she's asleep, he basically takes him out of her arms and hands him to the first family that comes knocking. And it's like her whole journey to find him. So definitely motherhood, because you see like her desperation to get back to her kid. So yeah. Anyway, those are all the books I have for this list. My phone's about to die. Please like, comment, and subscribe. We have less than a month to get to June, and I really want to get to 100 subscribers. So please subscribe. Anyway, talk to you guys later. Bye.
Stop recording video.